So I used to think that my XRP would never join the wild world of DeFi. Seriously, right? I was convinced that we were stuck on the sidelines forever. Well, it turns out that I was dead wrong, and you won't believe what happened when I finally opened that DeFi door. Now, let me set the stage, right? I'm an XRP holder, have been for quite a while, and if you're like me, you know the drill, right? We've watched from the bleachers while Ethereum, Solana, and all those other coins had their fun in DeFi. It's kind of like we were the kids with our own kind of noses pressed against the candy store window, watching everyone else feast on yields and NFTs and crazy APYs, and we couldn't even get in the door. Talk about FOMO, right? Now, I remember ranting to a buddy of mine in our Discord server, but here's a shameless plug. We've got a free educational Discord. The link is in the description. Anyway, I was talking about how XRP, for all of its speed and efficiency, just couldn't play in the DeFi playground. No smart contracts on the XRP ledger meant no Uniswap runs, no yield farming, none of what sweet DeFi action for us, right? It was frustrating, right? We had this kind of fast, low-fee coin that would be great for moving money across the world, but when it came to decentralized finance, XRP was like the kid who just didn't get the invite to the party. Now, here is where things get interesting. A little while ago, I heard about this new thing called Luminite. Now, it was a wallet launched by Flare Network, you know, the smart contract platform basically designed to bolt on to networks like XRP and give them some superpowers. Now, Flare's whole mission was, or this has been, I should say, to bring assets like XRP into DeFi. And Luminite is their latest trick to actually finally making it easy. Now, at first, I'm skeptical, right? I've seen user-friendly crypto stuff before and still ended up Googling tutorials for hours. But the buzz was that Luminite is different. They said it's seedless and as easy as logging in to email. Seedless, like a watermelon or a grape, I ask? I had to laugh to myself, of course. Dad jokes galore. I mean, crypto wallets without a 12 or 24 word seed phrase, right? That seed phrase is kind of like a rite of passage that we all have to suffer through. But color me intrigued then, right? I decided to give it a shot. So I go to the Luminite website and I start setting it up. I brace myself for that dreaded moment where it shows me 24 random words and says, write these down and guard them with your life. Instead, I get something totally different. It asks me to sign up with an email or use my fingerprint or some kind of passkey. And I'm sitting there staring at the screen thinking, okay, what's the catch? Is it legit? And it turns out that Luminite uses some tech from a company called Turnkey to handle the security in the background. They're basically going to let you create a crypto wallet in seconds using an email login or even biometrics like Face ID. And somehow, don't ask me to get into too deep into the tech side of it, you still end up with a non-custodial wallet at the end that you control. There's no seed phrase needed. Ever. Now, my mind here was kind of blown and a little bit skeptical. I mean, I actually hesitated for a second because years of crypto brainwashing had me thinking, if it's easy, it must be sketchy. But I went through with it, created it, my account, and I kid you not, under a minute, and the only thing that I wrote down was, well, actually nothing. It was kind of wild. Now, inside the Luminite wallet, it felt familiar, right? The interface didn't look like some kind of hacker terminal. It just looked like a slick kind of fintech app, dare I say it. It was almost like using PayPal or logging into an online banking, except it's crypto. And they kind of weren't kidding about it being user-friendly, right? There's an option to add funds. And right there, you've got this integrated fiat on-ramp, right? They partnered with something called 𝗕𝗘𝗪 for that. So if I wanted to, I could buy XRP on Flare's or Flare's token, that's sFLR, or whatever it is, with my debit card right there inside the app. Now, back in my day, listen to me sounding old here, but seriously, back in like 2020 or 2021, trying to get funds into DeFi wallet was a whole adventure. And if you're in crypto, even these days, it's not easy. Banks, they are limiting what you can do. And hell, Chris was debanked for doing this. So, you know, if you're banking with Santander, think twice. But anyway, you had to kind of send crypto from an exchange, double check all the addresses, and, you know, sweat a little kind of, you know, a little bit because you're hoping that you didn't send it to the wrong network, right? But here, it's just like, oh, you want to top up? Use Apple Pay or a credit card, smooth. Now, at this point, I'm thinking, okay, it's a nice interface. It's cool login tricks, but can it actually do stuff, or is this all just a shiny shell? So I started exploring the features. Now, Luminite basically kind of plugs you into the kind of Flare ecosystem. Now, for those who are not super familiar, Flare is essentially a separate blockchain, a layer 1, that's designed to act like a bridge for networks that don't have their own smart contracts. So in plain English, Flare gives XRP a playground where smart contracts are possible. And in that playground, FXRP is the star of the show. FXRP. I had heard the term many times, but now I actually got to play with it. Now, in the Luminite wallet, I saw an adoption to, at least an option, I should say, to mint FXRP using my XRP. Now, I'm no DeFi wizard, but I know that FXRP basically means wrapped XRP, or XRP that's been given a DeFi makeover. So it's like giving XRP a passport to travel in DeFi land. The idea is that FXRP represents your XRP on the Flare network so that you can use it in all of these smart contract applications, while your real XRP is locked up safely as collateral somewhere in the background. So I decided, what the heck? Let's give this a little try. So I hand over some XRP that's just sitting around because hodl gang, obviously, right? And I followed the prompts. I basically had a few clicks, connected my XRP account, and boom. It wrapped a small portion of my XRP into FXRP on Flare. Now, honestly, the process was pretty easy. It was way simpler than I actually had imagined, right? If you've ever done any kind of wrapping before on other chains, like wrapping ETH on a layer 2, for example, or something like that, it can be a headache with multiple steps involved. Now, this kind of felt like ordering pizza online. Click, confirm, done, right? Just like that. My XRP was now FXRP. I kind of sat back and thought, so this is what it feels like to finally join the party. Now, with FXRP in hand, or in wallet rather, Luminite basically opened up a menu for DeFi options, at least for me. Now, one thing that I did right away was to check out the staking or the yield features. Now, Flare has a thing called FTSO, the Flare Time Series Oracle, when I did a whole video on this way back in the day, which is basically just an oracle system that rewards people for providing data to the network. Now, in Luminite, there's an option to delegate your Flare tokens, FLR tokens, to the FTSO providers. And I still had some FLR. So, fun fact, remember that long-awaited airdrop for XRP holders? Yeah, I finally got my FLR tokens from that after what felt like maybe a century or so and checking all the different exchanges and whatnot. But anyway, instead of leaving those FLRs, I should say, idle, I actually delegated a little bit of them to, you know, through the kind of wallet, and it was kind of literally a couple of taps, right? Select an FTSO provider, hit delegate, done. No manual, staking contract calls, or any of the usual kind of DeFi fiddling, just my FLR is working for me, earning some rewards. It's not going to make me rich or anything, let's be real, but it's free tokens for basically doing nothing and clicking a few buttons. I'll take it. Then I saw the option for swapping a few tokens, right? There's this built-in swap feature, which is crucial because, you know, what's good in DeFi is, at least in a DeFi wallet, if you can't actually trade in it, right? Well, out of curiosity, I swapped a tiny amount of my FLR to some other tokens just to see, you know, what the fees and the speeds were like, as expected. Flare's pretty fast, right? And the fees were negligible, like fractions of a penny, right? Now it reminded me of what I always liked about XRP in the first place, right? Low fees, speedy transactions, and Flare, well, it just echoes that forward. Now, another feature, bridging assets via Stargate. Now, bridging is one of those things that used to be quite scary and quite technical and prone to hacks, if we're being honest here, right? But here it's kind of presented as just another option, right? Another menu option, bridge assets. So I looked into it and saw Luminite lets you bridge supported assets across different blockchains using the Stargate protocol. Right now, from the wallet, right? Now, I didn't actually bridge anything, at least I haven't done so yet. I'm not that adventurous for day one, but knowing that it's there is quite comforting if I ever wanted to kind of pull the trigger, let's say move some stablecoins from Ethereum over to Flare and vice versa. Apparently it's got a built-in feature and it's ready to go. Now, speaking of stablecoins and bridging, I should probably mention here that the Flare's network has been quietly growing its DeFi scene. I did a quick nerdy little check on the stats. Now, Flare's total value locked in DeFi has been rising. Now, I read that it's over $150 million now, mostly thanks to versions of Tether that they've launched, something called USDT0 and other new protocols. So this isn't a ghost chain then, right? Things are happening. It's not Ethereum level crazy, but it's vibrant and it's got to get bigger. It could get bigger, right? Especially now that it's easier access like this. Okay, back to Luminite. They also included something for the advanced users. You can actually mint sFLR on the protocol called sFLR, right? Directly from the wallet. And I probably murdered the name, but you'll find it in the app. Now that's basically liquid staking for FLR. So if you've seen how Lido's, sTETH works on Ethereum, stake ETH, get a token back that represents your staked ETH. Well, Flare is doing something similar with sFLR. Now, I dabbled just a little bit here. I staked a little FLR and I got sFLR in return, which theoretically I could use in DeFi while still earning staking rewards on my FLR. Now, I'll admit, that part made me feel extra degen, right? Like I'm doing fancy yield tricks, even though my wallet made it pretty straightforward. Now, before I go any further, I have to say this, and this one might just shock you, but I'm not a financial advisor and nothing in this video is financial advice. Cryptocurrencies are highly volatile and you could lose all of the money that you invest. You should always do your own research and consult a qualified professional. After all, your investments are entirely your own responsibility and you should know that nothing is ever guaranteed when it comes to investing. Neither I, this channel, nor YouTube are liable for any losses, and this video is for entertainment and educational purposes only. Alright, with that reality check out of the way, let's get back to the fun stuff. So there I was, right, messing around with this Luminite wallet when it really hit me. For the first time, my XRP wasn't just sitting there as a kind of fast but underutilized asset. It was actually now plugged into the whole DeFi universe. I could lend it if I wanted to, I could use it as collateral, earn yield, basically all the things that I watched other cryptocurrency communities do for years. We XRP holders can now do it too. Or we will be able to as more features do roll out. It kind of felt like we finally got our VIP pass. Now, I'm going to be honest, a part of me was almost emotional here, in a nerdy way, of course, right? I remember the early days when everyone said XRP is a banker's coin. It's not for the people, it's for not for DeFi, it's too centralized, yada, yada, yada. And sure, XRP's path has been different. It's focused on banks and payments. But not seeing a community-driven effort like Flare, or at least now seeing this community effort, it kind of like Flare bringing XRP into DeFi, it felt vindicating. Like, hey, we can have the best of both worlds, crazy fast payments and decentralized finance capabilities. Now, it wasn't lost on me, that this is all happening at a pretty interesting moment either, right? Maybe you've heard, but Ripple has been making some pretty big moves. Not everyone in the traditional finance world is happy about it either, but in fact, many around the same kind of time as Luminite launched, there was news that 42 US banks essentially tried to block Ripple from getting a banking license. Let's just think about that for a second, right? When you see 40-something banks agree on something, but apparently they banded together, through some kind of lobby group and went, no, we don't want Ripple in our club. So it makes you think, why would they do that? Well, Ripple had applied to become a federally licensed bank through a national trust charter and even wanted access to the Federal Reserve System directly with its own stablecoin stuff. Now, they have USD stablecoin project called RLUSD in the works. If Ripple became a bank, they could potentially integrate XRP and that stablecoin directly into the Fed system, maybe bypassing a lot of the middlemen. Now, that would be huge and kind of scary for traditional banks, right? It's kind of like if a new player shows up and says, hey, I have my own money network that could cut out SWIFT and cut out some of your banking fees. And the existing big dogs, they are going to growl. So these banks, they all cited all sorts of different concerns. They said things like, oh, the regulations aren't clear. We need more time to review this application, and complained that the process was too rushed because throwing the kitchen sink of excuses at the regulators, right? It was basically what they're doing. And let's be real, right? They were just panicking because if Ripple gets in with its tech-savvy approach, it could pressure them to innovate or risk losing business. Now, here's where my conspiracy brain really kicks into gear, just a little bit anyway. I find the timing hilarious. On one hand, banks are trying to keep Ripple out of the sandbox, and on the other hand, XRP, the digital asset itself, is finding a way to do all the cool DeFi stuff without any of these banks, thanks to Flare and Luminite. It's kind of like water finding a creek to flow through. You block one path, another one just opens up. Now, I'm sitting here thinking to myself, man, it's no wonder that some people in suits are losing sleep. XRP is increasingly looking like a threat from multiple different angles. Not only can it move money across the borders within seconds, something that banks charge hefty fees for and take days to do, now its ecosystem is expanding into loans, staking, yield, even tokenizing assets. Now, if you're a big bank and you see all of this, you must be thinking to yourself, how do we either join this or stop it? And historically, the first reaction is usually to try to stop it. But here's the punchline. Can they really stop it? DeFi is decentralized. Flare is a separate network run by a community. Millions of XRP holders around the world can now opt into this without asking any bank's permission. Sure, Ripple, the company, might have to fight lobbyists and file applications and play the compliance game, which of course they should, by the way, because bridging crypto and traditional finance needs those licenses. But while all that kind of slow chess game is happening, us regular people are already moving ahead, playing with the new toys. Now, I want to highlight something for scale here. XRP's market cap is pretty big, right? Currently over $100 billion, give or take, right? That's a ton of liquidity, although that isn't the entire liquidity. Market cap doesn't equal liquidity, just for reference, right? It's probably a small sliver of that, but you get the idea, right? And it's mostly idle, I guess. The actual liquidity is idle in terms of DeFi, right? Even if a slice of that does move through Flare's ecosystem via Luminite and FXRP, it could actually turbocharge the DeFi space. Now, I read an analysis saying that even a partial integration of XRP into DeFi could actually be a rather big deal, like adding rocket fuel to the fire. If it expands the whole, or at least the whole DeFi market significantly, and guess what? That's exactly what is starting to happen. Now, I know that I'm sounding all bullish and all rosy, right? And in the spirit of all fairness here, there are still a lot of unknowns. Just because I had a smooth experience doesn't mean that everything is perfect. For one, Flare's tech, like the whole FXRP system, is complex under the hood. It involves agents, collateral, and all that nerdy stuff to make sure that FXRP stays pegged to real XRP one-to-one. There's always smart contract risk, or the risk of not enough people using it and it doesn't actually get the network effect that it needs. Plus, the fact that they made the wallet so easy, seedless login and all that, is great for adoption. But one could argue it does introduce any new security assumptions, right? Like, if it's tied to my email address, what if my email gets hacked? I did some reading and they said still non-custodial, meaning that even if email biometrics is a part of the login, your keys are sharded or secured in a way that you ultimately control them. And there are recovery methods that don't involve a single kind of point of failure. So it's kind of clever stuff, but as with anything new, I'll keep a cautious eye on it. And then there's a lot of questions of, will people trust it? Crypto people can be weirdly stubborn, right? Some might say, no seed phrase, not your keys, not your coins. Even if that's not exactly accurate here, right? It is your keys, just managed differently. Now that mindset is something new tech has to kind of overcome here. Luminite's trying to bring in the next wave of users and the ones used to maybe Web 2 simplicity. Now, I happen to appreciate that because I've seen way too many of my friends shy away from crypto due to the steep learning curve. Maybe that will change over time. Another consideration is competition. Ethereum is still a big dog in DeFi, right? Other chains like Solana, Avalanche, Cardano all want a piece of the pie. Flare's unique angle is piggybacking on assets like XRP that otherwise wouldn't have DeFi capabilities. But if one day Ethereum somehow made it super easy for XRP holders to jump in, not likely without something like Flare anyway, but maybe people just prefer the more established ecosystems, right? Now, Flare will of course have to continuously improve its value, and they'll need to kind of keep that momentum going, attract developers, provide liquidity incentives, all that good stuff. Early signs are positive. I noticed that even Revolt partners with Flare on the Learn and Earn program to educate users and drive adoption. So bigger players are watching this space too. Now, zooming back into my personal story here, after spending an afternoon on Luminite, I had a moment where I sat back and just smiled, right? For so long, being an XRP holder sometimes felt like being the odd one out in the crypto crowd. People would tease, oh, you're one of those guys, right? You don't even have DeFi or smart contracts. What are you going to do? Just move money around? And now I can say, well, actually, yeah, we can do DeFi now, and thank you very much. I even called up the buddy that I mentioned earlier, the one who, I used to vent to in Discord, right? And I was like, dude, have you tried this? Remember how we always wished XRP could do what Ethereum does? Well, check this out. We ended up kind of nerding out together, comparing notes on yields and getting, what we're getting and, which kind of FTSO provider seemed solid. Apparently, there are many to choose from, sort of like picking a staking pool. So it was genuinely fun to explore something new with an old friend, especially something we'd actually been waiting such a long time for. It kind of felt like forever. Now, one more cool thing, and this is half speculation, of course, half hope. Now that the door is open, who knows what kind of innovation will follow? Maybe we're going to see new DeFi protocols launching on Flare that specifically targets XRP liquidity, right? Could be lending platforms where you deposit XRP and borrow against it, or new DEXs with juicy XRP trading pairs, or NFT marketplaces that use FXRP as payment. The possibilities here kind of just got a lot broader, right? Now, we should also acknowledge that Ripple itself has not been sitting idle on the DeFi-like ideas either. Fun fact, they built a decentralized exchange into the XRP ledger ages ago, right? They've been kind of talking about side chains and hooks to add smart contract functionality to the XRP ledger itself. So in a way, Flare's Luminite is complementing those efforts. It's kind of like multiple teams working in parallel to supercharge the XRP ecosystem from just different angles. Now, before I kind of wrap up here, I want to address you directly if you're an XRP holder like me. You might be thinking, should I jump into this Luminite thing? Is it worth trying? And I can't answer that for you, right? I'm not here to give any financial advice. Remember that disclaimer earlier. But I can tell you my approach. I started small. I dipped my toes in with a tiny bit of XRP to mint FXRP. briefly, just to see how it all works. And if you're curious, maybe you do the same, right? Experiment with a small amount that you're comfortable with and see if it clicks for you. You should always manage your risk though, right? DeFi can be a roller coaster, and just because something is user-friendly doesn't mean that there is no risk. Right? There's smart contract risk, there's market risk, you name it, right? But if you've been waiting for a chance to actually use your XRP in new ways, this is the most promising opportunity that I've seen so far. And I have to say, it feels empowering. No longer do I have to just sit there and hope that the price goes up someday. I mean, I still have hope that that happens, of course, trust me, right? I have my moonshot dreams for XRP just like the next holder. But meanwhile, I can actually put some of my XRP to work, earn a little interest there, right? And some maybe rewards over here, right? Maybe provide liquidity and earn some fees as well, right? It's just not just passive holding anymore. It's actually active participation. Also, here's a side note. If you want to discuss this stuff or need help kind of figuring it out, definitely join our Discord community, right? The link is in the description. It's completely free and it's full of people who love talking crypto and helping each other out. I'm in there often and I love seeing what others are doing with things like Flare and Luminite. So we can all learn from each other. Now, another quick tip, if you're looking to grab some XRP or FLR or any other cryptocurrency for that matter, or maybe just take some profits along the way, then I personally use Kraken Pro, right? Which is a crypto exchange that I use for trading. Now, I like their low fees and their solid reputation. And hey, for full transparency, I have an affiliate link down in the description for Kraken Pro. If you use it, and sign up and trade there, it actually supports the channel here at no extra cost to yourself. It's totally up to you, there's no pressure, but if you do use it, it's very much appreciated because it helps keep this content coming. So, what's the bottom line here? Well, for me, discovering Luminite was kind of like finding a secret doorway. One moment I was looking at my XRP thinking, man, I wish I could do more with it. The next moment, I'm actually doing it. It's kind of like a reminder of how fast things can actually change in crypto. One day you're locked out, and the next day the door swings wide open. It also taught me a little bit of a lesson. I used to roll my eyes at people who said, just be patient, the ecosystem will grow. I'm not the most patient of guys, but here we are. Patience paid off. The XRP ecosystem is expanding in a way that I honestly didn't imagine a couple of years ago. Now, I'm not saying that everything is perfect or guaranteed to succeed, but right now, as an XRP holder, I'm more excited than I have been in a very long time. We've got momentum, legal victories in the books, expanding partnerships in various different industries, and now DeFi realms unlocking. It kind of feels like all the pieces are coming together. Only time, of course, will tell how big all of this gets, but I'll be here teasing and testing things out, sharing what I learned, celebrating the wins, and maybe laughing at all of the hiccups. Now, if you made it this far, and I have a feeling that you're just as nerdy about this stuff as I am, and I appreciate you sticking with me this far in the journey. So hit that subscribe button, hit that like button, and join me on the next wild ride, and I'll catch you all in the next one.